decibel noise up to about 70 dB. And the other emerging area that one should look for MRI is the lightweight coils, because some of the coils, like for example cardiac coil, the abdominal coil, we put it over the patient, and if it is heavy, then there's a lot of problem with that. And it will be very useful also to image the very sick patients. And another area is the contrast mechanism. In fact, we have hyperpolarized MRI and new contrast materials that are coming, which can actually help us to study not only about cancer, but also its physiology and metabolism. Unless you understand the physiology and metabolism of a tumor or a cancer, you cannot devise drug. So it's very, very important that medical technology should go and focus in that area. And very recently, last year, very low field, 0.55 Tesla MRI scanners have been marketed by few countries, very prototype only, which will, with the power of digitization, has demonstrated inherent clinical benefits. Because, as all of you know, that MRI produces a lot of artifacts. So if you operate at low field, many of the artifacts can be countered. And susceptibility, especially when you image patients who have implants. So if you do it at low field, then all these artifacts can be done away with. And more than that, the pulmonary imaging, respiratory imaging is not possible at very high fields, because lungs contains a lot of air, and naturally the NMR signal will decay very fast. And if you do it at low fields, then you have an advantage. And what is the buzzword today? The artificial intelligence and virtual reality and augmented reality. So these are playing a very crucial role in radiology and radiological and medical technologies. And while AI will not replace the role of radiologists anytime soon, but it can aid the diagnostic processes to identify points of interest which will support the radiologist. Actually, there are three ways where artificial intelligence can improve the diagnosis. One is that AI can actually be used to scan data set of images and patient information at a very superhuman speed. That means this will expedite the workflow. And secondly, artificial intelligence can train to detect anomalies that are too small to be seen by a naked eye when a radiologist actually examines the films. So this will improve considerably the diagnostic accuracy. And thirdly, artificial intelligence can be used to retrieve prior imaging scans from a patient's electronic medical record and then compare it with the latest one. So it is going to be very useful for the patients. And several companies have already started incorporating AI into imaging system, but none of them are available yet for commercial use, because it needs to go a lot of validation. And especially when you use AI and MRI and CT scan, it will be much faster compared to what it is today. Because a normal MRI scan takes anywhere between, even a routine MRI, 20 to 30 minutes. And also it will help the artificial intelligence, the technicians, to best position the patient or the gantry in CT and the machine and the coils, and prepare the right setting of SOP to do for a particular disease process. And also very useful for monitoring the patients who are undergoing therapy, this artificial intelligence. When combined with MRI and CT, the sky is the limit. And also all of you know that today we talk about cloud services. So with cloud services and very intensive computer processing of MR images, large data handling would be possible with the very high performance computation, which can be integrated to cloud. So this will definitely change the paradigm of MRI data flows. Not only MRI, the other imaging modalities as well. And there are only 4 countries that make MRI scanners routinely, which are used in clinics. There are small players, but they are not in market. The leading ones are Japan, USA, Germany, and Netherlands. And India is going to be the 5th country in the world to have its own MRI scanners very soon. Even UK Even UK and some of the European countries do not produce their own MRI scanners. Indeed, a very proud moment for us. I have been in this field of magnetic resonance for over 40 years and worked as the chief of MRI center at AIIMS, Delhi for almost 30 years. So surely with my experience I can tell with authority that MRI is a very, very complex technology compared to the other imaging modalities. What does it mean? It means we need expertise and experts in various fields of science, technology, engineering, and medicine. For example, experts from physics, because it was invented basically by a physicist, chemistry, electrical engineering, computer science engineering, material science, cryogenic engineering, low temperature physics, and medicine. All of them should work in tandem to produce this MRI scanner, a Herculean task. And I thank Dr. Arunachalam and his team to bring up such a low-cost, affordable MRI scanner to India. It's a very, very tough task actually to do that. And one more statistics. Presently, India has less than one MRI scanner per million population, whereas Japan has 55 MRI scanners per million and USA has 39 MRI scanners per million. So there is a great need for us to have our own MRI scanner. The reason is that the majority of the Indian population are not having any access to the MRI scanners. If we go to the tier 2 and 3 cities, we don't have an MRI. So the purpose of the government of India and the Prime Minister is to have at least a couple of MRI scanners in the district headquarters so that the rural population need not have to travel to a big city to have their MRI investigations. So this scenario is going to change when we make our own MRI scanners like voxel grid has done. Thus, indigenous production and affordable and accessible, both are very necessary, affordable and necessary, will increase the workflow, especially with very, very low helium consumption. In fact, the technology that voxel grid has come with only helium gas, not the liquid helium. So this will change the healthcare scenario in the coming years. So one such example is what we are. So we would be very, very happy to have the launch by the minister today, and congratulations to the team. Jai Hind.
Give us a glimpse of the developmental journey of the star product for which we all have assembled here.
And other initiatives by the government like Make in India, Startup India, Voxel Grids Innovations Private Limited was formally incorporated.
Our vision was to build world-class magnetic resonance imaging scanner products in India. This was not only a personal desire but also a goal that aligned with the Make in India initiative promoted by the Honorable Prime Minister of India. While this vision was worthy, the task was obviously going to be extremely challenging. This was the first of its kind initiative in India where the market is flooded with high-cost imported MR scanners. So there was a ready entry barrier that we had to contend with. Secondly, in order to make our product work, we had to get a diverse set of technologies to work in complete harmony together. And finally, to get it all off the ground, we needed a substantial amount of funding. This is where the National Biopharma Mission of the Department of Biotechnology, implemented by BIRAC, stepped in to fund us, without which it would have been extremely difficult to take this project off the ground.
We are responsible for all the software of the scanner, ranging from graphical user interface, pulse sequence design, reconstruction, firmware, service and installation tools. The fact that we have a fully licensed scanner today is a matter of immense satisfaction.
In June of 2023, Voxel Grids received the commercial license for the sale and manufacture of MRI scanners in India from CDSCO, Government of India. This makes it the first and only indigenous manufacturer of MRI scanners in India. Its work has been internationally recognized and has been presented in top journals and conferences around the world. Going forward, establishing fully functional pilot clinical sites and scaling up our manufacturing would be the company's core objectives. There is still work to be done, but the beginning has been promising. Voxenritz is grateful to the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Secretary DBT, MD BIRAC, MD NBM, and all the staff at NBM for this support and this recognition. We will continue to work hard to make a mark in the global medical devices sphere.
So a little bit about us, we were officially founded in 2017, but the founding team came together in 2016. So that 2-minute video tried to capture a 7-year journey for us actually. So we are today a 36 employee strong company. I'd like to say that our primary mandate was to actually just make a contribution. As you may have appreciated from all the talks given, it's a very difficult challenge to even build one. So we consider even that to be a success. That apart, we also wanted to build an ecosystem for this research in this field with academia. So we do collaborate with the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. We work with IIT Madras. Some of our colleagues pursue a PhD at IISc while working for us. We received very generous support from the National Biofarm Mission, which enabled us to set up our own facility, which is what you saw in the video. We have also received generous support from Zoho Corporation and Mr. Sridhar Vendu, which allowed us to accelerate our efforts. So the point on accessibility was already made, but there are certain general factors that matter. Healthcare is the only sector where as technology advances, cost is actually going up, not the other way around. And diagnostic technologies, especially in our country, are seen as a service and not a core function of a hospital, which is why MRI is also an out-of-pocket expense. General insurance policies do not cover MRI and even CT. And MR equipment as a result lacks design context. The financial model that runs in the Western world is based on reimbursement, while here it's based on out-of-pocket expense. But the equipment is the same, it just doesn't change. So who pays for it? And that's one of the big challenges we have with this modality. In India, it's even more acute. The average cost of an MR scan is $140, and if you go by a per capita GDP, 2 scans and a lot of money is gone on a monthly basis. And 70% of installations are in tier 1 cities, and overwhelming percentage of diagnostic imaging is done by diagnostic imaging centers, which ties in with the service model that people see. And so this is the commercial landscape. If you see the data in orange, those are the number of refurbished systems that are being sold. These are past their life cycle use, they're refurbished, they're resold. Where are they being sold? Of course, even at the edge of tier 1 cities you'll find them. This is because there's a genuine need that needs to be fulfilled. The market is asking for a solution, and that's what we identified. This is a broad provider landscape, and there's an untapped sweet spot, trade-off between technology and cost, which is always the case, but finding it is the challenge, and that's what we have been trying to do. And this is our solution. It's very lightweight. We have tried to match the weight of a mobile CT system. This is to address issues of accessibility. Simplification in the hardware allows us to get rid of liquid cryogenics of the expensive kind like liquid helium. We have software inventions that have been granted across the world, US, Japan, Europe, etc. And we also have IP in the pipeline as far as hardware is concerned. Our real objective is also to make it completely mobile, a drop-in diagnostic center of the sort that's shown here. The power consumption at the moment is over 50% less than what even the lowest power consumption of a traditional system can do. And very lightweight, extremely tolerant to environmental and electrical variations, which is important. And it's pre-cooled with liquid nitrogen, which is very inexpensive. Designed to be mounted on mobile platforms. If you have a hub and spoke software model, you can assess images from anywhere in the country and address issues of accessibility. This one slide captures the fact that we have been granted a license. I can assure you, getting a license, if you go through the entire process of safety and regulatory testing, is an incredible challenge. And the fact that we have achieved that is actually what we are celebrating here today. It's a monumental achievement, and I'm extremely grateful for all the support we have received. Going forward, yes, as mentioned in the video, I believe the healthcare landscape is changing. In 10 years, it will be unrecognizable what will happen in this country. And there's a very, very strong interest in manufacturing locally. And so our goal will be market expansion, or also our goal will be to offer research scanners to academic institutions. And there are certain properties these scanners have which will allow for this research to grow within academia. We are a private limited company. If this knowledge is transferred to academia, it will stay forever with the country. And that's a real objective behind doing this. So thank you very much. I would again, from the bottom of my heart, thank NBM. And I'd also like to thank Pooja Tanwar ma'am for actually helping us through some very difficult phases. But overall, I've had a fantastic experience, and I'd like to say that BIRAC is a special institution. Extremely grateful to all the dignitaries on stage. And thank you, Minister. Thank you so much.
Our leadership, Dr. Rajesh S. Gokhale, Secretary DBT and Chairman BIRAC for this kind address.
Chief guest of today's program, where we're going to launch this first indigenously developed magnetic resonance imaging scanner under Biopharma Mission, Union Minister of State for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra. First of all, thank you very much for coming over here. I know the Parliament is going on and there's always uncertainty about how and when we can do this program, but I think you've been such a great moral support for all of us. Thank you indeed, sir, for taking time and coming over here. Dr. N.R. Jagannathan, Distinguished Visitor Professor at Koita Center of Digital Health at IIT Bombay and co-chair of the SAG of the BIRAC, which actually very nicely worked with the entire team. Dr. Arjun Arunachalam, CEO of the company that has produced the MRI scanner, and you just heard him giving you this journey and wonderful ideas about it actually. Dr. Alka Sharma and Dr. Jyoti Logani, my colleague from DBT, Dr. Jitendra Kumar, MD BIRAC, distinguished guest, Director of DBT Institutions, DBT and BIRAC colleagues, media persons. Thank you very much indeed for coming and joining for this joy that we are all celebrating today with pride and glory actually. I think it's a day to celebrate and remember of what all we've been able to achieve over the years in past couple of years that have been provided, where COVID has provided us tremendous amount of opportunity and shown ways and directions of how really we can take this momentum ahead into glorious India, what we are all looking forward to actually. The launch of India's first indigenously developed MRI scanner is one of these feather in the cap actually. A fantastic achievement. I think we should all clap for it and for the company and the people who work this together. I think Made in India was a kind of a slogan, but now you can say it's starting to become a label that we all can feel proud of. It's scaling new heights in the country, and Made in India will become the landmark event for next 25 years to come. I think Department of Biotechnology along with BIRAC and with various other stakeholder partners including World Bank and Gates Foundation and others actually are relentlessly committed to the goal of manufacturing se Atmanirbharta actually, which is the tagline that what government has. And with dynamic partnerships, some of our country's best industries and entrepreneurs are showing us the way of how we can work together. I think what we really need to do is to convert clearly link academics with this entrepreneurship and the industries such that one can complete the whole value chain together. And I think this is where we are all looking forward to take this journey ahead. I congratulate the entire team of DBT, BIRAC and Voxel Grids Innovations who have successfully built state-of-the-art ultra-weight next-generation MRI scanner, and you heard all the details from the expert, Dr. Jagannathan, who gave you all the details about what really MRI scanners are about. I think what is really interesting to look at is you really feel the need of it when you go through this technology actually. And it was not too long ago that I had a snap my knee, and in fact I had to go for an MRI. And no sooner I realized that it was easily accessible being in Delhi and how it is important to get an anatomical view of my knee to understand what has happened actually for it. But then you realize there are millions who have no access to it. Same thing can happen to millions and you just trip across place and you don't really have an access to be able to understand. And I think it's then when you realize, the realization grows that, first, there are so many people who don't have an access. Second, who don't have an affordability. The third, even if you don't have a mechanism to really read them and be able to analyze and interpret them in a fullest possible way. And I think government through DBT BIRAC efforts has been constantly innovating and delivering inexpensive indigenous technologies actually, and large number of them devices and various diagnostic tests that emerged during the COVID period of time, and also following up is actually is a kind of a feeling that we all should proud of about actually. I think the real most important is the health equity is very, very critical for this country's health of the country to build a productive nation that we are all looking forward to. And I think that is where DBT BIRAC is constantly endeavoring under the leadership of our Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, who himself being a clinician actually understands this area rather well, and in fact maybe sometime better than some of us in terms of medical diagnostics and its mechanisms of looking at it. I think I can guarantee you that India is all set up to disrupt the next wave of entrepreneurship innovation in the country. Already we are third largest in the entrepreneurship startup country in the world. I can tell you that in no time we'll be actually reaching the milestone of number one actually. And the vast pool of technical talent and skilled professionals that we Indians have actually, I mean, you all know this, it's irrepressible, right? Actually, all the world now, in fact, constantly looking forward to how Indians can contribute to these actors. I can guarantee that biotechnology, in a very large perspective, will be the next wave of technological innovation in this country actually. Will lead the challenges, will provide solutions, will take up country to the next frontier levels, and probably for the first time we will have developing formative technologies in this country and not really only adopt technologies from abroad actually. And I think that's the kind of promise that we all have to learn and deliver at this time. That's why department is envisaging to bring together scientific and technological advancement to enable circular bioeconomy, which is what is the biggest challenge. For example, end of life cycle assessment. If you look at for a simplest of the material actually, I mean, for example, if we look at cloth, we don't know what is its end of life material value of this is actually. We keep dumping them here and there. We have really no way of understanding what one needs to look at and how the sustainability model will emerge. And I think that's where Department of Biotechnology is actually looking at advancing high performance biomanufacturing and integrated approach towards green, clean and prosperous India. And I think such solutions, when we find, will actually provide us ways of empowering our country in an enormous way by combining with AI technologies, by combining with medical devices that have tremendous amount of investment has gone over the years from Department of Biotechnology and BIRAC over the last 10 years, would actually start to pay values and create tremendous amount of excitement. And as I would say, as our team reverberates with new achievements at the first pace, we can proudly say MRI as my resonating country actually. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your motivational words. And we now move on to the most awaited session, that is the launch of the first indigenously developed MRI scanner. A small miniature model of the MRI scanner, and I request our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, to unveil the model and mark the launch of the product. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. We would also request you
and an eminent biotechnologist in his own right, Dr. Rajesh Gokhale, Dr. Alka Sharma, Dr. Jitendra Kumar from BIRAC, Dr. Arunachalam, Dr. Jagannathan, members of the fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I have to congratulate you all and also myself for being a part of this event. We are launching, as you said, this first of its kind MRI scanner made in India. When Rajesh was saying make in India, I said it's make in India for made for the world. Very soon, like vaccine, I think we'll also be seeing it being provided to some of the neighboring countries as we did with the case of vaccine. So congratulations. For those of us who belong to this generation of scientific workers, including Jagannathan, I think it's been a fascinating journey. We have seen the evolution of India's both therapeutics as well as diagnostic evolution over the last more than half a century. At least when I was an undergraduate student, the maximum was an X-ray. By the time I became a resident, it was ultrasound. By the time I was a postgraduate, CT scan had just come in. And MRI happened after I completed my post-graduation and became a senior resident. So it's been a very fascinating journey. And there were times he would recall, because he was more into the technology part of it, but at least in the surgical side, we had a very famous surgery called exploratory laparotomy. And any day, even at AIMS, if you saw the list of the surgery cases put up, you would have at least 4 or 5 of them. And that meant that they would open up the abdomen just to see what was there inside. Today, much more than what they saw with the naked eye is available through MRI. So such a huge transformation. And absolutely a very aggressive, invasive surgery was undertaken, entire incision from across the vertically across the abdomen, and then they would try to look, because even if you had some lymph node, they would not know if it was hardened, whether it's hardened because of tuberculosis or the malignancy. Then of course ultrasound started giving some cues, and now of course MRI. So it's been a fantastic evolution for medical practitioners and also scholars of medicine. And similarly also, as we started getting all these modern tools of diagnosis, the disease spectrum also went on changing. So earlier on we were dealing mostly with communicable diseases like cholera and gastroenteritis, all sorts of infections, even tuberculosis, typhoid. And by the time, and we didn't have all these tools, so it was easy to, diagnose with the pulse. And the generation before me, in fact, was more into the non-pharmacological and non-diagnostic means of management. I know how many of you would know that for a very long time, the management of typhoid was starvation for 1 month. You would give only liquid diet because the players' patches would get fragile, and perforation was one of the main complications in enteric fever. So till we got chlorophenicol, which was the first time it was used, and there were no such tools available of diagnosis. So it was all by pulse, and also by matching the pulse rate with the temperature, because there was variation, the mismatch between the pulse rate and the temperature rise, all those clinical things. So having evolved from that clinical to this era, now I think, I was asking one of my friends, good friend Naresh, the other day, I said, if one of your patient turns up, can you recognize him? He said, don't joke with me. I said, because you watch him on the screen and your residents do the surgery. So it's been now such a journey that you don't even need an individual contact with a doctor. So much is the tool available, and I think what is rest is going to be taken up by artificial intelligence. And someday you might even organize a ceremony like this without any one of us. Some artificial minister and artificial secretary sitting there, because the day is not far, you can actually recreate them, because I have a very fascinating group of young boys into a startup telemedicine. They have actually created fascinating AI doctors. And that lady talks to you, you feel like continuing the conversation. I mean, she's so convincing and so sympathetic, at the same time so knowledgeable, so inquisitive. So what I'm trying to say, the entire is such an explosion of knowledge happening. But, and at the same time, the lifespan is increasing, so with the increase of lifespan, all these gadgets will come handy. Virtually every patient who is approaching the age of 60 is being advised MRI for a prostate. So that is a pet. So you have assured market, because earlier on people didn't live that long. Now the surgeon knows if I refer to Dr. Jagannathan, I'll also be party to some returns, which I don't want. So whether required or not, earlier on they just used to do the per rectum test, and with the consistency of the prostate they would make out if it is harder. Now they would not take. No, we can't take chance. You go to Jagannathan. So there's an assured market now actually for MRI. So therefore I think with the celebration of this new generation or the next generation MRI scanner, we are actually not only celebrating this new gadget but also celebrating the medical world's journey and in fact India's journey from where we were and where we've reached. And also I would say, when you talk of Atmanirbharta, I think it's also celebration of the journey from colonial dependence to Atmanirbharta. Not many years ago, when the cardiac surgery had just started in this country, it was a fashion, in the elite circle to say, okay, I got my cardiac surgery done at Houston. So Houston became famous in India for no other reason, just because many of those who could afford went there for a heart surgery. Nobody else knew what Houston was. Some of the VVIPs went there. Now it's the other way around. You just walk into any heart hospital, 3 out of 2 or 2 out of 3 will come back with a stunt, whether they require or not. So what I'm trying to say is that this actually has revolutionized the entire way. I sometimes wonder whether the new generation would actually be able to visualize what a great transition it has been, and of course a great celebration of what Prime Minister Modi has already been reiterating, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And this is in fact, we are in a way celebrating Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, as far as the voxel grid MRI scanner is concerned, as was being mentioned by Dr. Arunachalam and others also, it's lightweight, so you could now carry it, and this is going to be a great facility. It's cost effective in the sense that it's less expensive, portable, indigenous, as was said. He said make in India, I would also say make in India and make for the world. And of course enhanced imagery, which Dr. Jagannathan would bear me out because every next generation has that. So this is also an addition to the increasing armamentarium of the preventive health care that we are into now. Because when I was a few moments talking about every patient approaching 60 being referred to Dr. Jagannathan for a prostate scan, maybe there is the other way part of the story also, because they could also help preventing many of the impending catastrophes, particularly in the diagnosis of or the early detection of several of the malignancies which are now becoming more and more curable, because we have a whole list of malignancies. If you go to a class of oncology, they would categorize it curable, less curable, or maybe worse prognosis. So you have now, but all that again, the outcome and the prognosis would depend on how well, how specific, with what amount of specificity and sensitivity are you able to detect and at what early stage. So therein these gadgets come in. While congratulating the voxel grid, I think the drum has to be beaten for Dr. Rajesh Gokhale and his team also, because it was they who have facilitated this. The BIRAC, I believe the total cost was about 17 crore, Dr. Arunachalam, out of which 12 crore is Dr. Rajesh Gokhale's. And that is not often talked about, so I have to talk about that. So I leave you to go home and decide whether the machine belongs to whom. So because after 17 crores, but nevertheless, that is not to undermine the participation, because this is a very healthy public-private participation. Why I am saying so is that having learnt in a bitter way from the vaccine story, ultimately the show gets stolen by the marketeer and the script writer remains at the back of it. So not that is something, I mean, that's a part of the human nature. When you go to watch the movie, you appreciate the hero and the heroine. You don't know who is the director and who wrote the script or who made the heroine look good. So that is precisely what is happening. Now, when this is to be brought to the market, of course, that is equally important to publicize it so that it reaches the stakeholders. So it's not their fault. It is their responsibility to generate good markets so that people who require it can benefit. So for obvious reasons, they have to blow the trumpet, they have to play jingles, they have to put up advertisements. But the the team which conducts trial believes that their task is over. But then some kind of remorse comes in when they feel that everybody else is being celebrated besides them. So I think I was suggesting Rajesh, been suggesting to him ever since he joined, that you should start blowing your trumpet right from the beginning. Because in the world that we live in, nobody is going to pat your back. You have to pat your own back. And you have to keep telling them what you are doing. So I have to equally, if I don't pat his back, who would? So I must compliment BIRAC and the Department of Biotechnology. So I'm glad that you are also patting. So I'm glad that the Department of Biotechnology and the BIRAC had the vision and the sense and the wisdom to participate, to finance and facilitate this invention, because it's not only a service to the ailing mankind, it's also a service to the cause of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat that the Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about. And I'm sure in the times to come, because the current demand, I was saying, is just about 350 is per year, but you are going to have much more increase in the years to come. Maybe by 2030, I was told there is going to be 350 machines per year. That's your projection. So I hope the next generation also is funded by BIRAC and the I'm saying I'm like a smart partner in this PP arrangement. I'm saying that the demand is going to increase, and there is also going to be a demand to have next generation. And I'm sure this partnership will continue for the next generation also. And yes, at the same time, it's also a vindication of the PPP model, which has been very close to my heart and I always been talking about. I know why in government circles sometimes we feel shy of engaging with a private partner, which I for once has been advocating that unless we get out of that kind of mindset, we would not be able to move on from where we are. So in order to have a growth which is wholesome and which is to the best of our potentials, we need to have a synergy of all these stakeholders, whether it's academia, it's researchers, whether it's the startup and industry right from the beginning, and make industry your partner and stakeholder right from the beginning. And you are going to have an enhanced responsibility also with the National Research Foundation being in the pipeline. The cabinet has already passed it. Very soon it will be brought in the parliament also. And of course, a few months will go in just setting up the structure, but it will become functional after a year or so. I mean, it takes time also. And both the Department of Biotechnology and the Department of Science and Technology are going to have a huge responsibility in putting it on the right track and also ensuring the kind of outcomes and the vision with which it has been envisaged. Because a lot of passion and hard work has been put in or invested in the making of that draft, which took 2-3 years. So many times it was revised. Even yesterday somebody told me, how are you going to get 35,000 crore from the industry? So I sat down along with the Philip. I said, let's work out. He said, no, that will happen. No. It occurred to my mind because like a Khurafati researcher, if something happens to your mind and you don't get sleep. So we worked out. I said, CSR 10%, even if it is fair, because the total CSR of all the companies put together is about 30,000 crores. If it is put 10,000, you get about 7,000 or so per year, because this is 5 years calculation. And if you do engage in the manner in which you have engaged with Voxel Grid, you put in 100 crore, they put in 100 crore, I think your 7 crore per year can be made up. It's not going to be difficult to raise that kind of resource if we have little more of open-mindedness to engage with the right kind of industry. And industry is also there, and we can also give some liberty to industry to do the kind of mapping. Now, for example, if their concern is there, Jagannathan will tell you, look here, now the sale of this gadget is gone down. You will say this one day, not today. After a year, you are going to come back and say, well, I've been part of the same profit. And when I ask you, or Rajesh asks you why, you will say, no, China has come out with the next generation. So then we'll have to make up. So you are there, I am there. the partners are there. So we again make another movie as we do the remake of the old movie. So there is tremendous scope. Only thing that we have to have that vision. We have to be actually living into future. That is now the challenge is that we think about tomorrow with our yesterday's mindset. And the time is moving so fast that what we think about happening next morning is already happened midnight. It happened today also. The Chandrayaan had to leave the last orbit. It left exactly when I felt sleep. At 12:30. So I was keeping a track because that was a crucial journey. After 6 circles, it moved out from the outer circle of the Earth and then went into the outer circle of the Moon, where it will enter about 4 or 5 days later. So we thought it would happen till morning, but it happened even before you had woken up. So things are moving in a very rapid fashion. But as Prime Minister keeps talking about the Amrit Kal, I think this is one of the best times happening. Best time happening for this model of PPP experiment. Best time happening for the scientific fraternity, because the whole world, and luckily much more so India under the present leadership, has awoken to the fact that the entire growth universally is going to be technology driven. It's going to be startup driven. There's no other choice. And bioeconomy, which had been so far neglected or maybe it didn't catch our priority in the earlier years, is going to be one of the main players in building up the future economy of India. We just have $10 billion US economy. Now it's 80 billion within 5-6 years, and it's projected to be 100 billion by 2025. Biomanufacturing, which Rajesh has been very passionately talking about, and so I told him you should start holding workshops to make people understand what's it. It's biology or manufacturing. It's engineering or so people don't understand what is manufacturing, what is bio got to do with it, because their manufacturing concept has got conditioned by some other kind of images. But this is going to be the reality tomorrow. And with bioeconomy being the key to the India's future economy, and startups, particularly sustainable startups, are the ones which are going to determine India's future growth. And with the vaccine having placed us in the front line as a biotechnology capability which can take a lead, I think the world now has accepted our biotechnology capability. So the recognition has already come. Here also now the responsibility would be to sustain that reputation, that recognition. Therefore, I think we are now moving in that direction. Congratulations, Dr. Jagannathan, once again. The AIIMS loss is Vauxhall Grid's gain, but that's precisely happening with the exit of some of the senior doctors from AIIMS. But a doctor is always a doctor wherever he is. So that is the advantage. Wherever you are, you will be serving the cause.
I would request Dr. Arjun to present memento to Honorable Minister Dr. Dr. Jyoti Gagani, scientist at DBT. Dr. K.V. Ramanathan, NBM.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of National Biopharma Mission, BIRAC, DBT, and entire fraternity of life science innovators, enablers gathered here, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude for making this product launch resounding success. First and foremost, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, Honorable Minister for State Independent Charge, Minister of Science and Technology, Minister of State for Prime Minister's Office, Minister for Personal Public Grievance Pensions, Department of Energy, Atomic Energy and Department of Space, Government of India, for sparing your valuable time, sir, and during Parliament session, and to DBT and Chairman BIRAC for your inspiring words and leading us all. Thank you, sir. I would like to also acknowledge the motivating presence of Dr. Alka Sharma, Senior Advisor, DBT. Thank you, ma'am, for your thoughtful and insightful cues in organizing this meeting. Thank you. I'm also grateful to Dr. Jitendra Kumar, Managing Director, BIRAC, for his leadership and continuous support to the entire team. Until last moment, he has been following with me and saying everything is okay or not. Thank you, sir, for your care and concern and leadership. Thank you. A special thanks to Dr. Jyoti Lomani, Scientist of DBT and Nodal Officer of NBM, for handholding and being our direct contact to DBT, and most importantly, caught our imagination and gave us new insights. I would like to congratulate and express my deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Arjun Arunachalam, CEO of Voxel Grids Innovations Private Limited, his entire team, and for sharing their momentous journey and for making this product for all of us. We sincerely appreciate the members of the media for your excellent coverage of the event. I owe special thanks to organizing committee, Dr. Shubhra, Mr. Nitin, Ms. Deepa, and my colleagues from BIRAC, especially Dr. Shishindu, and all those behind the scenes who have worked tirelessly to ensure seamless execution of this launch. Without fail, I have to express deep gratitude to my entire team, Dr. Pooja, Dr. Madhvi, Dr. Shikha, Dr. Monica, Akshay, Himanshi. Thank you all for being so actively contributing to this event. I would like to acknowledge the presence of all innovators, partners, distinguished guests, attendees whose presence has added vibrancy to the occasion. Your participation, enthusiasm has made this event all the more memorable. Until we meet again to celebrate another success story.
का ये एक प्रयास है। जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि आजकल प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ केयर के लिए डायग्नोस्टिक हेल्थ केयर की बहुत अनिवार्य है। किसी भी बीमारी का जितना जल्द पता लगाया जा सके, चाहे वो कैंसर हो, कुछ और भी किसी प्रकार का नामुराद रोग हो, उतना उसका निवारण अधिक संभव रहता है। MRI एक इस प्रकार का डायग्नोस्टिक टूल है, लेकिन इसमें थोड़ा सा खर्चा भी अधिक आता था। इतनी स्पेसिफिसिटी और सेंसिटिव ना थी शायद पहले जैसे थी, और उसको नेक्स्ट जनरेशन पे ले जाना। नेक्स्ट जनरेशन का अर्थ रहता है मेडिकल पार्लेज में कि अगली ऐसी मशीन हो जिसकी सेंसिटिविटी ज़्यादा हो, ज़्यादा बारीकी से वो इमेजेस, वो वहाँ के चित्र कलेक्ट कर सके। दूसरा, उसकी कीमत निस्बतन कम हो। तीसरा, उसको इस्तेमाल करना पहले की तुलना में सरल हो, जैसे कि ये पोर्टेबल भी है। और चौथा, जो जगह जगह पर उपलब्ध करवाई जा सके। तो ये एक नया आयाम डायग्नोस्टिक हेल्थ केयर की दुनिया में और डिजिटल हेल्थ केयर से जुड़ता हुआ MRI नेक्स्ट जनरेशन। और सबसे बड़ी गर्वान्वित होने वाली बात यह कि इसका इजाद, इसका पूरा का पूरा निर्माण पूरी तरह भारत में हुआ, पूरी तरह इंडिजिनसली हुआ। भारत के ही वैज्ञानिक और हमारा जो विभाग है डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बायोटेक्नोलॉजी, उसने इसका सहयोग किया। लगभग 17 करोड़ रुपए का ये प्रोजेक्ट था, जिसमें से 12 करोड़ रुपए का योगदान BIRAC से रहा है। BIRAC एक हमारी संस्था है जो प्राइवेट पार्टिसिपेशन में डेवलप होने वाले प्रोजेक्ट्स को सहयोग देती है, और एक अपने में एक सक्सेस स्टोरी है। और एक वॉक्सल ग्रिड एक दूसरा प्राइवेट पार्टनर था जिसके साथ मिलकर के ये PPP मॉडल में इसको डेवलप किया गया है। और आने वाले समय में बायोटेक्नोलॉजी का एक बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण योगदान रहने वाला है भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था में, क्योंकि ये जिस प्रकार से बायो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का चलन आया और प्रधानमंत्री ने जिस तरह से नेशनल रिसर्च फाउंडेशन का भी कॉन्सेप्ट देश को दिया है, उसमें भी इन विभागों की प्रमुख भूमिका रहने वाली है।